What's going on, everybody? Tiger here, checking in here on Monday. Looking to kind of go through a quick weekly watch list. Wanted to take a look real quick at the COT data from last week and see what the institutions bought and sold. And checking this out, looks like the Nikkei got a 12% bump to the positive. The Nikkei out of Japan. We have the Dow Jones. We have the New Zealand dollar, and we have the euro, and then the Russell 2000. Looks like they bought all that. So looking good for those assets. Um, yeah, I think SPX slightly on the negative, the S&P 500, and then Nasdaq at the very bottom with -3, so -3.76%. So yeah, basically, if I'm looking at the currencies, obviously the New Zealand dollar looks pretty good for potential buy, depending on what we compare that with. I do know the U.S. dollar, yeah, that came in about 0.69, so almost unchanged. Um, I think I did have one setup for the U.S. dollar that popped on my screener. I believe it was the dollar Japanese yen, if I remember right. Yeah, right here, USD JPY. We got a score of 5, which is a bullish. Anything 5 or higher is a bullish signal. So, yeah, I mean, I know that the US dollar just had a pretty decent bump this morning in the services PMI. As you see there, they did have a forecast of 50.2. The actual number was 51.6. So, not so good for the U.S. stock market, but it is good for the U.S. dollar. Remember, those have kind of an inverse relationship when it comes to inflation data. What's good for the currency is not always good for the stock market, and vice versa. And this is true for all the currencies, the major currencies that I like to trade. So, um, yeah, kind of a double-edged sword, if you will. But yeah, if I take a quick look at dollar JAP, like I said, it's showing a score of a 5. Um, Looks like we're pretty neutral on the COT data, retail positioning as well. Um, Only really getting one red square, and that's for the interest rates. Obviously, that's favoring the Japanese yen more so than the U.S. dollar. I do know that they have a Fed decision coming out. The U.S. does on Wednesday, I believe. Yeah, right here, federal funds rate. Looks like they're forecasting to keep rates unchanged. So if I just take a look at the dollar JAP on the chart, now we have been on a pretty decent decline ever since looks like mid-January. It's just been going straight down, but this is the first time, and as you can see, we had a nice bottom in action down here, and then it's looks like it's trying to go on its way up. Now I have an alert set above and below current price because just last week the dollar Japanese yen was still showing on my edge finder, it was showing a bearish rating. It was down here, but oh, how quickly things can change. Dollar Jap went from bearish to neutral, and then, like I said, it's just now for the first time showing a bullish rating. So, if you look and notice, I mean, look at here. We had this orange box right here. This is a minor. If we're looking at the master pattern, I kind of went over that in a training the other day. Master pattern. This is showing where price balanced out, and then as you can see, price left that zone to the upside. So obviously the bulls won that little battle. Just think of it this way. Anytime I talk about master pattern and I show these boxes, whether they're blue or orange, it's equilibrium, equilibrium in price. So yeah, I mean, you could look at it as a fight where they're just fighting each other and keeping things in place, or you could look at it as they're shaking hands, they're agreeing on price. So, it's all in how you look at it, but inevitably somebody's going to win out. So in this case, the Bulls won and kind of flipped the script for us on the edge finder. So, um, especially with that good services purchaser manager index report that came out today. That's why everything flipped to the positive. So daily chart over here on the right, 4-hour chart over here on the left, and I've got a demand zone right in the middle of my screen. You see that little box there if I zoom in. Okay, price went up, based, and then shot up like a out of a cannon. So that's a really, really good, if I take a square from the top, from the proximal line of that supply zone candle, and I skip the candle after that shot up and I go to the bottom of the second candle, that's my fair value gap right there. Okay, that little box, that little blue box. That's my fair value gap. That's a very big one. That's an awesome one. So, yeah, that tells me that when price left the zone and shot up like crazy, that tells me that there's unfilled orders down here waiting for price to come back. Not everybody was able to, get their orders triggered. So yeah, what goes up must come down. But what gets shot up like crazy like this may shoot up again. So what I'm waiting to see is, price come back down, obviously from current price. Let's touch that zone. Let's get a good, basically I want to see my RSI down here. I want to see some divergence. So I want to see price come down, and I want to see this RSI line start creeping upwards, showing me where the relative strength is to the upside. So, and then, yeah, I mean, if I look at my master pattern on the smaller time frames, see, I got a couple minor boxes here. I think on the 30-minute, I had a major. Yeah. So this is my demand zone. This is my 4-hour demand zone, down here. So just look at it this way. My major contraction point, that's price equilibrium. So since I'm looking to buy this market, if I were to buy above this equilibrium line, that's overvalued. So I want to wait till price becomes undervalued, right? Buy low, sell high. Well, that's the same with the value of price in relation to trend and all that. So I want to buy under the blue box. Anything under value is a good place to buy. But the ultimate place to buy is after banks do this. So they knocked price down below value. They scoop it up. They scoop up shares here. They push price up to test the upside of this candle here. Get some liquidity there. Price gets pushed back down again. Now price is below this point because people that bought in this area, retail traders, they put their stop losses under here. So what happens? The big banks swing price below that to collect that liquidity so that they can make another up move. They're going to keep doing that until they accumulate all the inventory they want for the US dollar relative to the Japanese yen. And then ultimately, look, I want them to fall right smack dab into that demand zone, because the probabilities are in our favor. The odds are price comes down, then that's their last resort to get that last scoop of order so that they can push price up. Okay, so that's ultimately what I want to see. I've got my alert set there. Now I'm going to go ahead and delete this alert up here. Like I told you, I had a short sell alert set, but since price is now giving us a 5 bullish rating, I do not want to sell this market, because all the fundamentals all the fundamentals have swung, and the trend as well. Okay, on the daily time frame, fundamentals and trend have swung in the direction of a bullish bias. Now again, the sentiment is in a neutral bias, but when you got all these other boxes that are blue, hey, that's a low risk, high reward scenario. So got my alert set. We are about 50, 60 pips away. So, if we can get price to continue to move down, it might take a day or so. But yeah, by this time tomorrow, we might be bouncing into that demand zone and looking for a buy. Okay. Now, yeah, and I'll keep tabs on that, and I'll let you know how it shakes out. But other than the dollar Jap, I mean, there's some indexes that I could trade as well. But when I went to look at all the indexes earlier, I think they were still quite a ways away. Yeah. So like here's the SP 500 index. I basically would want price to come down to this demand zone, but it's still quite a ways away. I think same thing for the NASDAQ. Yeah, still quite a ways away. And then the Dow, Yeah, I don't really have a whole lot on the Dow, but yeah, some pretty decent demand zones, 4-hour demand zones, for S&P and the Nasdaq. Um, I think the UK 100 was pretty bullish as well. Yeah, UK 100 up 10. So look, these are, remember, 9 or higher is very bullish. So these are really good ones to look to buy this within this next week, as long as as long as the bias number stays that high. But again, that just because we have fundamentals and sentiment in our favor doesn't mean we just go out and smash the buy button. We got to wait for price to retrace into a more undervalued spot. So yeah, UK, I mean, I don't know. This is a daily demand zone right here at the 38.2 level. Not really seeing a whole lot. I mean, you could technically call that demand zone right above the daily, a potential place to buy. But I don't like the fair value gap status, to be quite honest. I mean, price closed here, you got that little candle there, and then price kind of gapped up. So I don't know. I mean, that's a potential place to buy, and then just put a stop loss below the daily demand zone as well, or just wait till price, see if price breaks through or maybe wicks through that daily demand zone into this smaller demand zone down here. Let me zoom into that real quick. So yeah, here's a pretty decent zone. I mean, there's the basing, couple basing candles there. Really nice price action upwards, pretty decent fair value gap. So that shows the strength of that demand zone. So that might be a potential place to buy as well on the UK 100, the FTSE around 81.45, 8,145 level. So yeah, but again, those are a little more longer term. The immediate trade, I think, for me though, is the dollar Japanese yen. I've already looked at these other ones. I don't really like a lot of the other charts at the moment. New Zealand Jap. Well, let's take a look at Bitcoin, because it did actually drop into a daily demand zone yesterday, like after market, around market open. Actually, it was right before, but I didn't really have a good. Yeah, see, here's my daily demand zone. But think of this. So I didn't really have a great fair value gap out of that zone. So price didn't really go that high before it did ultimately come back into the daily demand zone. But I didn't really have a good 4-hour demand zone on a smaller time frame. I mean, if I zoom into this level right here, I did actually have a 2-hour demand zone candle yesterday when I was looking at it. So I was considering a potential buy, and then of course put my stop loss below the whole daily demand to give it plenty of wiggle room. But ultimately, I decided against it. I've been staring at charts for a decade. So sometimes, you you do it as long as I have. You basically get to a spot where you just trust your gut. So even though I had a bullish rating on the Edge Finder, yeah, right now it's about a 7, it looks like. And even though I hit a 2-hour demand zone, it just didn't feel right. Just didn't feel right. I mean, it did come down to the 38.2 level. In fact, let me see here. Oh yeah, that's right. That's why, because I think yesterday I had the Fibonacci. I kind of included here. Let's get rid of this line real quick. Let's do this actually. I had the. Oh come on. Hold on a second. I had the Fibonacci all the way down to the bottom like that. So obviously that's way a ways from the 38.2 level. So I just kind of got cute and I thought I would just shorten it up just to this area here and look at it on a even smaller time frame. But I just didn't like it. I don't know how to explain it. I just didn't like it. And clearly if I would have, purchased in that 2-hour demand, clearly it would have fallen through like it did. So it's still bouncing around in the daily demand zone. I just don't like it. It's too high up from this bottom down here. If you look at it daily, I mean, look, it's very overvalued relative to this bottom point. Okay, so it just wasn't good. Now, if price had come all the way back down and retraced further into this area, or maybe even hit that daily demand, then there's obviously much more of a potential buy long situation, which I actually looks like I showed at one time with that line there. So not interested in Bitcoin. It's a little too expensive for my taste right now. But other than that, yeah, it's on the short sell side. I'm only getting one one short sell option, euro pound at a -6. Remember, -5 or less is bearish. But yeah, I didn't really care for that price action either. If I look at the euro pound over here, uh, yeah, there it is. I mean, it's wanting me to sell something that's been going up. I mean, it has had quite a deep retrace, but yeah, if I look at it over here on the 4 hour, I just don't see any good supply zones. I really don't. So that's about it.